cast rules. I'm saying that in a general direction. I think that's maybe where we should go.
Yeah, but don't you worry about the left weaponizing that? Where if somebody doesn't answer the questions,
the left tried
that,
to put Trump in prison and got him shot last year. I think we're beyond the, well, what if the left's back in power? Who knows what they'll do next? It's like, they've done some crazy stuff at this point. We won.
fair.
We need to keep governing. It's time to build and to create the future we want instead of saying, well, what if the left wins again? It's like, well, again, like I said, they almost threw Trump in prison. And if you look at right-wing governments around the world, their leaders are always constantly being thrown in prison and made unable to run because
We've thrown some of them in prison.
Well,
Fascinating. Vish, take us home.
I know
I'm
what,
sorry, go ahead,
I know
Al.
what the left would say if they were thinking along these lines. They'd say, everyone, you can only vote if you have a master's degree. You can only vote if you're an expert.
If you have your pronouns in your email, if you're willing to accept as a fundamental premise of our social studies that the white man, should never have gone to battle with Native Americans and should have surrendered upon arriving, obviously, to their own slaughter. Bish, take us home. What do you want to talk about?
All right. So recently there's been a massive dust up and uproar over the guests that are appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast. And namely, the people who have taken issue with this are Barry Weiss of the Free Press and most recently Douglas Murray, who appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast and essentially went on Joe Rogan's platform in his face and said, you need to have standards on who you're booking as guests on the show. It's not about, and he basically says it's not the problem of the ideas that you're talking about or the questions that you're talking about, but who you're allowing on your massive platform to talk about these things. And they've been pointing out guests such as Andrew Isker and Daryl Cooper and Ian Carroll. And basically, and then Jordan Peterson goes on Joe Rogan's podcast and takes it a step further and says, oh, James Lindsay kind of calls these people woke, right? But that's wrong. Actually, they're just psychopaths, right? And so so you shouldn't have these psychopaths on your show, on your platform. And what really needs to happen is podcasts need to have standards and guardrails. And I'm thinking, like, where have these people been the last 10 to 15 years? The whole point of the podcast, of this decentralized, disintermediated media, is the point to not have any guardrails. You can talk about what you want, how long you want to talk about it. You can take the conversation anywhere. You could take the conversation off on a tangent if you want. That's the whole point, to allow conversations to naturally evolve. And Joe Rogan has built that model to great success. And now you have all of these people who America only knows about them because they appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast, telling Joe Rogan how to book his show with his guests. And I think it is an outrage. These people will turn around, look you in the face, and say that there is no bigger free speech advocate out there than me, and then turn around to Joe Rogan and say, you shouldn't have certain people on your podcast. I think it's outrageous, and I think that there's a real conversation to be had about our podcasts and this disintermediated media ecosystem gonna start having, only experts. You can only talk about certain subjects with certain people. This person is approved to talk about this subject. I think that's a dangerous game to play. They're going to take us back to exactly what we broke away from. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Like, you've had podcasts, you have shows. Would you ever consider, like, one of your guests telling you who you're allowed to have on your show?
Vish, I think this is very substantial projection on your part to let Kara and Alum and the rest of our viewers in on this. Vish had a bit of a difficult week at work this week. He's the booker on the Matt Gaetz show, and he booked someone who was dressed like a dominatrix. And so now, suspiciously, he has raised this issue of how low the bottom should be on booking.
No, it's not about how low the bottom should be. And I'm not comparing the guests you're talking about to these other people who are clearly have massive followings, have great perspective and
No, I think,
insights.
yeah,
but
I get what you're
that's,
asking.
you
Look,
know,
quickly, and I'm dying to hear Alan's take on it because he's an expert in the area. I think when we start to do that, like you say, you lose the rawness and the edge and the unique feature of this space. And people listen to podcasts in a different way than they consume television. And the way you credential in this medium is by having something interesting to say, having a warrant for your claim, having thought about something. Whereas on television, it is the recitation of sound bites and talking points and achievement of a viral moment. And we're not immune to that. We try to create interesting moments for our viewers every single night on the Mac 8 show. But I think it is different than trying to go a layer beneath that. And I think over cooking the sauce with a critique of credentialism is misplaced.
I know what it's like to have back pain. When I found Inversion, it changed my life forever, and I believe it can change yours. I'm proud to introduce the most effective, the most comfortable teeter inversion table ever, the Teeter Fit Spine. When you invert, your back and spine elongate. With the pressure off, your back muscles relax, the spine realigns, discs rejuvenate, and nerve roots are relieved of painful pinching.
Been online working for 34 years now, and my back was pretty bad. Now I got on the teeter, and I felt it like just alleviating, just stretching. Now I can go out, I can go play basketball, go walking with the kids. I'm a new person. My back feels the best it's ever felt.
FDA registered as a Class 1 medical device, teeter inversion tables are indicated for temporary relief of back pain, muscle tension, degenerative disc disease, spinal degenerative joint disease, spinal stenosis, herniated disc, spinal curvature due to tight muscles, sciatica, muscle spasm, and facet syndrome.
Biggest difference the teeter table has made in my life is that I have physical freedom. It helped me so much, you have no idea. I'm not worried that I'm going to be limited by my back pain.
The teeter is easy to use. Simply set it, lock in, recline, and relax. Some other brands rely on gimmicks like padded beds. Your body sinks into the foam, stopping the decompressive stretch needed to achieve pain-relieving results. The FitSpine features Flex technology, a patented bed that enhances decompression for a better stretch and better results.
Over 3 million people have put their trust in Teeter to feel better, move better, and live better. I'm in my 80s, and I feel great.
We're making it easier than ever to try the teeter in your own home with 0 down and 0% interest only at tryteeter.com. Experience the life-changing benefits for yourself. If you don't love it, just send it back with our 60-day return guarantee. Go to tryteeter.com to start your journey to back pain relief today.
Are you behind on your mortgage? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Are you considering trying to get a loan modification on your own? Did you know that less than 5% of people who tried on their own actually got a modification? At the Mortgage Modification Helpline, we know the rules and regulations banks don't want you to know about, and we've helped thousands of people stay in their homes. So call the Mortgage Modification Helpline today.
Please call 800-601-3290.
You're watching One America News Plus, your source for the nation's top-rated primetime political talk shows. Stay tuned. One America News Plus will be back in just a moment.
Okay. Well, Kara, how about you? Like, what do you think? What do you think about this?
So once again, let me think so I don't get in too much trouble with my thoughts on this. When I watched that debate, as you're referencing Douglas Murray versus Dave Smith on Joe Rogan, the pot shots that Douglas Murray was taking at Dave, but then also Daryl Cooper of the Murder Made podcast. What he kept basically getting back to was he had never listened to Daryl Cooper. He has no clue who Daryl Cooper is, what his beliefs are, what his thoughts are on anything, and how well researched he is either. What he does instead is he conflates them with smear merchants, and he just puts them all in the same group, and he just says, yeah, they're all bad people. Don't listen to any of them. Well, that ends up meaning it's censorship because Douglas Murray kept really harping on credentialism and expertise. But then he talks about the war and the Israel-Hamas war all the time. He talks about the Ukraine war. He talks about these wars that, as far as I'm aware, he's not an historian. I don't believe he's done scholarly work. He's written books. He's a journalist. But he is not also the card-carrying credentialed expert that he claims can only speak about it. So in fact, what he's saying is you just can't talk about it. But then when Dave Smith would push back and Joe Rogan push back saying, well, what about you're talking about free speech? He's like, well, of course you can talk about it. Well, I thought you said I can't talk. Well, you can't because you're just a comedian. And it was this weird back and forth. And basically, he's saying is I have my certain pet issues, and I will come down really hard when you go against my pet issue. And I will use it's like how the left does. It's they have their end goal in mind and they use arguments like this. They switch it around. And that's why too many people on the right, when we're trying to debate someone on the left, we're trying to attack their argument. And it's like, well, it's not even their argument. They don't care about the argument. They don't care about the logic or the reasoning. What they care about is what they want at the end of that. And that's what you have to keep attacking. So that was my main problem with Douglas Murray, as he admitted he has no clue anything about Daryl Cooper, doesn't even know his stance on anything, just assumes he knows what he's talking about, and then says, shut up, don't talk about it. But of course you can talk about it, but also don't talk about it. It was the threat, the veiled implicit threat of, don't you dare, I will destroy you, Joe Rogan, however I can. And that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least, it sounds like, Douglas Murray and James Lindsay types, they're using woke tactics to censor the very people that they turn around and say, hey, we're free speech advocates for. Alum, how about you? What is your take on this? I know you've been a veteran of the space.
Yes, first of all, sorry about the lighting here. I had excellent natural light in this room when I started, but the sun's just gone down.
I know you look so much more distinguished and credentialed now. Now that you're the silhouette of Alan Bakari has joined us.
So yeah, to Vish's point, I think so I write a lot about online censorship, but that's only one side of the censorship coin over the last few decades. The other side, I think, is this culture of denunciations and deplatforming, where you're not allowed to have so and so on your show. You're not allowed to platform this person. I want you to condemn this person before we could even talk about their ideas. That sort of culture, right? And I think the reason why Douglas Murray's comments and Jordan Peterson's comments brought about such a backlash is because it seems to be pointing back in that direction. We've just gotten past this era in history where you had people being asked to ritually denounce people essentially for their political views, and now we're trying to get back to this idea where you have to have a certain credential, you have to have the right opinions to be able to go on these podcasts. And as Kara said, I mean, the whole expert thing, yes, there is a genuine sense that there's a sort of crisis of competency right now. There's a sense where anyone can talk about any topic without any sort of background in the area, sure. But at the same time, if you insist on expert credentials for everything, then Douglas Murray couldn't talk about 70 to 80% of the things he talks about, because if you only talk about the one thing you're credentialed in, that's not going to be very much.
Matt?
I am glad I am at least credentialed in one thing. And like I said, I think that the value of somebody's contribution to the conversation has to matter somewhere. And if the podcasting space, if the online space, if the streaming space aren't accommodating that, then I don't know what will. And I'm grateful it does. I'm grateful that Alan fights for it every day as the managing director for the Foundation for Freedom Online. I'm so excited that we get to be here on this amazing pirate ship we call One America News, with Kara McKinney, who hosts, and with Vish, who produces, and I do the Matt Gaetz Show on weeknights, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific. Please make sure you get our live app at oann.com. And give us 5 stars, leave us a review, let us know who you'd like us to talk to and get great ideas from in the future. Thanks for joining us on Anchorman.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.
Mr. President, you had said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you joking?
No. Well, I still believe that, but takes 2 to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens.
Probably never going to happen, but you know what President Trump likes to do? He likes to troll. It's called trolling. We do a little bit of trolling, and that's what he does. Trump today doubling down on his proclamation to try and make Canada America's 51st state. Now, what you heard right there, that was ahead of today's meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, the new left-wing guy that some say might even be worse than Trudeau, Mark Carney, who actually was at the White House today. Again, this is Trump doing what Trump does. Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Real America with Dan Ball. Greatly appreciate you tuning in, folks. So today's meeting comes amid escalating trade tensions, of course, between our two countries. President Trump said that he and Carney would not be discussing the possibility of Canada becoming the 51st state. Of course not. All right. Most of their talks were private today. Carney coming out, holding his own little press conference out in front of our Capitol, saying, you know, Canada's not for sale. We knew this tit for tat would be back and forth. But again, we're in the middle of a tariff war and trade negotiations with dozens of countries, and Canada happens to be one.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, you know, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
So, yeah, we know you're not for sale, and Trump's most likely kidding with you, but it did get under your skin, didn't it, Mr. Carney? And you're also here kissing the ring and discussing the trade deals like dozens and dozens of countries are, because Trump knows how to do this. This is negotiating 101. President Trump also announcing today that he and senior administration officials will evaluate potential trade deals over the next 2 weeks to determine which ones to actually accept. In addition to discussions with Canada, let's talk China. Trump indicating that negotiations over the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, also known as the USMCA, must be revisited. The agreement set to expire next year already. Trump now questioning whether a renegotiation is necessary, suggesting that some aspects need to be changed ASAP. Canadian PM Carney adding that it's a basis for a more broader negotiation. Some things about it do have to change as well. I wonder what he's thinking. Now, when it comes to Beijing, President Trump says tariff negotiations are all in the timing.
But they want to negotiate and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
But you haven't met with them yet.
I have not met with them. Of course, you would know if I met. I'd tell you they want to meet, but you know, we are right now. Look, they're suffering greatly. Their economy is suffering greatly because they're not doing trade with the U.S.
President Trump also focusing on America's fiscal health, looking to slash government spending in his new budget plan. On Friday, Trump announced a budget blueprint that calls for slashing federal spending on key non-defense programs by $163 billion by targeting renewable energy, education, and foreign aid. The plan calls for a 23% reduction in non-defense discretionary spending from the fiscal year 2025 levels, bringing the total down to $557 billion. The cuts will not affect our defense, Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. Did you liberals and you a-holes at CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the lying media hear that? No cuts Trump wants to make will come from Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. Okay, just had to get that out there real quick. They will, however, reduce funding to agencies like the EPA, Energy Department, Department of Housing and Urban Development. Yeah, you know, things that have been bloated for too long. Meantime, House Speaker Johnson says that the GOP may not meet its original Memorial Day deadline to pass President Trump's spending bill. Why not, Mike? Get to work. Legislation is being advanced through the budget reconciliation process to avoid a Senate filibuster. Johnson says it may not be finalized by May 31st, but he does say it will pass shortly after that. Well, maybe don't take as many vacations, Mike. Maybe don't send members home. Maybe make members stay through the summer, work weekends, you know, like Americans have to pay the damn bills. I don't know. What a novel idea. Members work more than 100 and some days a year out of 365. I could be crazy. Let's ask our next guest to weigh in if he's fine with working. I bet he is. He's the founder and co-chair of the House Doge Caucus, also sits on the House Ways and Means Committee, Florida Congressman Aaron Bean, back on the program. Aaron, how about it? The American people want to see the GOP get their, I'm going to say it, asses to work. Trump's out there working nonstop 70-hour weeks. Can Mike get you all back to work so we can get this budget going and other major bills passed? Because Trump's executive orders are only good as far as the presidency goes. If you guys don't codify this stuff, the next president, if it's a Democrat, God forbid, we could see all this unravel in a few years.
Dan Ball, first of all, what an honor to be back on your show.
Shut up.
Yeah, you speak Trump, and you know that he trolls so much, and
Yes,
you
he
can see
does.
through that. And just for him today, that 51st state talk, that is all that is just it's a troll. Dan, I am ready to get to work, and I think you got a whole bunch of members that are ready to get the job done. If we don't, Dan, our economy goes in the tank. We fall in a cliff. Everybody's taxes skyrocket, and we are shot as a party. So we will get it done. And I applaud Johnson for being aggressive with the schedule. Let's get to work.
Yeah, let's get to work, because midterms are right around the corner. And you know what everybody's already playing up out there in the media, which is 98% liberal, let's be real, and Democrats, is y'all aren't getting anything done. And look, the economy's still in the tank. The tariff wars are going to cost you more for crap. What's Trump and the GOP really doing? Vote for us in 2026. And that's what they're already putting out there. So stuff needs to get done. Let's go back to the tariffs real quick. Last I heard, and maybe you have a different number, Aaron, there was at least 90 countries calling the White House begging for new trade deals. From my account, out of the whatever there is, 180, 200 nations on the planet, about 150, 160 do business with us. Let's be real. There's about 5 or 6 that are the main key ones we got to do business with. Mexico, Canada, China, India, a couple more. That's about it, right? How are we looking on the main big ones? We know China and Canada still pushing back, but how is this trade negotiations, from what you're hearing in DC, going?
I hear great things, Dan. I hear really great things. And it's the great American reset. And some of these countries, including Canada, are our best friend. It's like having a best friend, but you're going to get tired paying for dinner if your best friend, if you always have to subsidize your best friend. And that's what we're telling Canada right now. If we can't have free trade across the board, at least have fair trade. And that's what Trump is telling the new prime minister right now. Another key one you just mentioned is India. That is so key. And trust me, the Chinese are looking at that deal. They're scared to death of India. And if we can get India on our side, which we will, and which we, I believe, are very close to announcing, then that's going to be a game changer in the Indo-Pacific region. And then that brings China to the table to just the great American reset. China has been, as you know, Dan, anybody that watched your show knows how aggressive China has been on the world stage, how much they steal our stuff, intellectual property. They do not play fair.
Decades.
Maybe this could be what resets the world stage.
Yeah, well, it needs a reset. I mean, I don't know how many people I've heard claim that for decades and decades, China has been stealing our intellectual property from some of our best and brightest scientists and inventors, and you name it. So it needed a reset, and I'll throw both parties under the bus. There wasn't anybody with the cojones on the left or the right in that Oval Office in decades who wanted to take China on. Now, whether they were bought and paid for by China, I don't know. I know there's members of the House and Senate that are bought and paid for on both sides of the aisle. I can think of a real old guy in the Senate that I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw his ass, and I'm glad he's not running again. And you know who I'm talking about. All right, let's talk a little bit about the federal buyouts and the cuts that Doge are making. Since you're the founder of the Doge caucus, I'm loving all this. People's minds are exploding, but here's a new headline that just popped. More than 15,000 USDA employees are going to take the buyout. This is on top of tens of thousands of more in different agencies that are taking the buyouts. I also saw an article that said, Aaron, that Doge has uncovered, and now Trump has fixed, almost 90% of the employees that were phoning it in for the last half a decade or so are now, their butts are either bought out, resigned, fired, or they're back in DC actually working for the American taxpayer. Is that right?
That is absolutely true, Dan. And we still have work to do, but the great reset continues on the employee front too. Joe Biden did a lot of things not well, but what he did do well was hire federal employees. He put 100,000 new employees on the books since 2020. And part of the reset is a restructuring, having a government and a employee base that we can afford. We cannot afford what's going on right now.
Amen.
And so the employee base, as well as Trump budget, is trying to get back to pre-Biden, pre-pandemic levels. And we did fine as a country then. That's a government that we can't afford, but currently we can't. So thank goodness 15,000, and hopefully there'll be other buyouts. I think there will be. that other employees, it's just so easier for them to part ways in a nice manner. And that's what Trump is offering, this fork in the road for people to choose.
Well, Aaron, let's be real. The federal government was bloated as hell before COVID. And so returning just to pre-COVID levels is a start. But many of us true conservatives would love to see, and I consider myself a bit libertarian, I would love to see the federal government shrink even more than pre-COVID. I'd like to see it shrink about 25 to 30% from pre-2019 levels. I mean, let's be real.
Dan, it'd be awesome, but that's probably not a lawmaking exercise. We got people in our own party that are uncomfortable shrinking, uncomfortable going backwards, and until we grow our majority to get people who are ready to make some aggressive cuts, as am I, as am others.
I know you are.
We have to respect that they're here, and that's who.
Right.
That's who's.
So it's on us in
Johnson
midterms to primary and get rid of rhinos that don't agree that the federal government's too damn big. That's on us. That's the voters. We'll take care of that. Aaron, I'm out of time. Aaron Bean representing the 4th Congressional District down in Florida. Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate you.
Dan Ball, thank you. Go get them.
Coming up after the break, Texas Congressman Troy Nehls is going to be here to discuss the Trump administration's deportation process over the last 100+ days and how radical judges keep attempting to stop the progress from removing the worst of the worst. Don't go away.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0. When I invented My Pillow, it had everything you'd ever want in a pillow. Well, now there's new technology that makes it even better. My Pillow 2.0 has my patented fill combined with a cooling fabric with temperature regulating thread. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.
Studies show that when you hear better, you feel better and actually live a happier and healthier life. So Nano Hearing Aids is offering 2 very special offers. When you buy any Nano OTC hearing aid, Nano will give you a pair of Nano personal sound amplifiers free. And Nano is offering an amazing deal on their CIC Recharge OTC hearing aids. You can order a full pair for only $297. Payments from only $26.81 a month, 88 cents a day.
1-800-231-6205.
Here at Allegiance, we feel like American flags should be made in America.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags were actually being made overseas.
Every flag we make is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
If you've got the TV volume way up right now, then you really need these. These tiny but powerful little hearing aids are the Nano CIC Recharge, priced at only $297 for a full pair. These are not simply amplifiers. These are ultra high quality, ultra reliable hearing aids, priced thousands less than other hearing aids. They fit right in your ear. Nothing shows in the back of your ear. Payments as low as $36 a month.
Call 1-888-943-8468.
We've delivered the most secure border in American history. At the southern border, we have obtained near total control with daily encounters now down over 93% since President Trump took office. March saw the lowest number of border encounters in recorded history in the history of the United States of America at just under 7,200.
Now that's dedication to securing a nation. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem testifying just hours ago before the House Appropriations Committee on the work being done at DHS to make America safe again, especially from the foreign invasion that was allowed by the Biden-Harris regime. Trump administration continues to put in work around the clock, expelling these illegal criminal aliens at a record pace.
We are enforcing immigration laws to identify, to arrest, detain, and to remove dangerous illegal criminals out of our country. And we're prioritizing individuals that have committed crimes in our communities. Aliens are a threat to our public safety and to our national security, and especially those that are affiliated with terrorist organizations such as Tren de Aragua and MS-13.
Noam is also backing a plan for the Justice Department to investigate the detestable bartender turned congresswoman from New York. You know what I'm talking about, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC is under fire for hosting a so-called Know Your Rights webinar back in February. You know what it was really about? It informed illegal aliens on how to cut a deal if they encounter ICE. What? At the time, the border czar, Tom Homan, claimed that AOC's actions aimed at coddling and protecting these invaders. And Tom said that she may have broken our laws by teaching them how to invade law enforcement. No, taking it a step further now, accusing AOC and her fellow anti-American Democrat colleagues of, quote, standing alongside known terrorists. Yeah, can we start charging some of these people with something? We, the people, are getting sick and tired of the lip service from you on the right. We want to see some asses in jail. This, as another radical person dressed in a robe, has ordered the government to admit 12,000 illegals into the U.S. U.S. District Judge Hamil Whitehead ruling yesterday that the government has an immediate obligation to process and admit and provide statutorily mandated resettlement support services to the injunction-protected refugees. Really? The America First Legal Foundation is fighting back against this judicial overreach. Matter of fact, they just sued our Chief Justice of the United States of America, John Roberts, accusing him of acting beyond his scope as head of the judicial system in our country. Robert Conrad, who serves as the director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, is also named in this suit. The lawsuit alleges that Roberts and Conrad have overstepped their constitutional roles by engaging in activities typically reserved for the executive branch. That's the president, Mr. Chief Justice. The outcome of this case could have significant implications for the balance of power between the judiciary and the executive in our country, and that is a big deal. So let's talk to somebody who used to be in law enforcement and is now in the House. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Texas Congressman Troy Nehls, back on Real America. Troy, nice to see you. Wow, what a difference a day makes. America First suing the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Now, I've been out there saying that these district judges have been overstepping their bounds big time, but I didn't know that we needed to go all the way to the top. I mean, Stephen Miller and the America First movement here and Policy Institute is sending a clear message that we're getting tired of the judges meddling where the Constitution clearly says the president, the executor, has the right to do this, not the judicial. Am I right or am I wrong in reading the Constitution?
I think you're absolutely correct. And what we have seen, even before Trump was inaugurated on the 20th, obviously these rogue judges are out there just causing problems for Donald Trump and the America First agenda. But we expected this to take place, didn't we? I mean, this is no surprise. I mean, this Monday, the judge on Monday, Jamal Whitehead, obviously talking about these 12,000 refugees, allowing them inside our country, is ridiculous. Kristi Noem did a great job explaining to the Senate Appropriations Committee the great work that is being done by this administration for keeping the American people safe. Mm-hmm. She laid it out there. We're going after the bad hombres, Tren de Aragua, she mentioned MS-13. Yep. And there's a lot of these judges that are just out there trying to create their own laws and misinterpret our current laws.
Yeah, I think, you know what? This is just like when it was candidate Trump, Troy, and you were on and we were talking about corrupt judges, right? Started in New York, and then they went, oh, look what Letitia and those guys are doing in New York. And then they got other prosecutors and judges and whatnot around the country to do the same thing with 5 or 6 other cases against Trump. Now they're doing the same thing. They saw how much political capital they got when Boasberg who has connections directly to helping the illegals because his daughter works for that law firm that's providing free legal assistance for illegals from Venezuela, but I digress. Anywho, Boasberg kicks it off first, trying to stop the planes from flying over that one weekend, a month or so ago. And then all these other judges go, oh, look, that judge did it. Now we can do that. And I'm sure Democrats, your colleagues across the aisle, are out there pushing these judges. Yeah, come on, do another injunction. Stop the president. Stop this.
Well, they're not even judges anymore, and I think the American people are looking at them. I mean, we're doing a good job. Many of the different outlets are trying to. They're political. They're activists. They're political activists. And if you look at many of them, obviously, this most current one, this Whitehead, was appointed by Biden. But then you get a few cases where even some of these judges appointed by President Trump back in 2017, or even nominated to the Supreme Court, are getting a little out of control. So I think it is a good time for the American people to truly understand, and that this issue is becoming a big problem.
Yep.
It's becoming a big problem because the American people spoke loud and clear in November.
Yes, we
in
did.
The general election. We want Donald Trump to save our country. We want him to be the president of the United States, not these judges that have been appointed with many of them lifetime appointments, and they're out of control. I don't like all, but let me just be honest here. I don't like all these lifetime appointment things. I just don't. I don't like these lifetime appointments. Quite honestly, even to the Supreme Court, I think it's getting a little bit crazy. You got some of them up there that they'll keep them hooked up to oxygen, until the next president is elected, because they're so critical up there.
That's a good point. That's a great point. I want to end with this, Troy, because I will give credit where credit is due. And if I throw somebody on the bus for one idiotic bonehead move, but they do something else good, then we give it to them. And so you and I are both veterans. I got about 30 seconds left, but I did want to get your take on this. The United States Supreme Court, as of today, and I don't like the word allows or lets, but they are okaying President Trump's move to ban transgender troops. Wanted to get your thoughts on that as a vet.
We don't need transgender troops. We don't need them in the military. Recruitment numbers are up. We don't need them in the military. We don't need them in the classrooms. Quite honestly, we don't need them anywhere. They can create their own little separate colony and go out and be goofy with each other. It's getting out of control now. It really, really is. It's unacceptable. It's unethical. And I cannot support it in any form or fashion.
It's against God. It's against science. That's what I always say when somebody wants to argue with me about transgenderism, a mental disorder that's been labeled that for decades until the last few years under the Biden-Harris regime. Congressman Troy Nehls, as always, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. Up next, the P. Diddy trial just got underway this week, and already a lot of bombshells being dropped. Which celebrities, which royals, which politicians were involved in going to the Diddy parties with all of that oil? Ugh. More on that when we come back.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. Retailers, shopping channels, and now even banks have tried to cancel myself and MyPillow. Well, during these times, your support has meant everything to us. So my employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you by passing the savings directly onto you. We're selling the best products ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have my standard size MyPillow, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. Or you can get custom fit with my premium queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now just $29.98. Or my king size.
Mr. Trumptastic. Yo, Trumptastic. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm fresh to death. Like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. 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 Yeah, I'm fresh to death. Like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Trips around the Atlas, had me ballin' like a globe. Try to double dribble, slam dunk. I'm dripping through the paint, nigga. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm fresh to death. Like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Trips around the Atlas, had me ballin' like a globe. Try to double dribble, slam dunk. I'm dripping through the paint, nigga. Everything I touch turns to glitter. I'm a lucky charm. Fettuccine Alfredo mixed it with the Parmesan. EBS coming in and ringing like a car alarm. Honey, I shrunk the kids about the size of a peppercorn. USA flag and I stitched it with the Betsy Ross Baywatch Barbie. Then I hit her with the hasselhoff. Frog man, Oculus, I had to take my glasses off. Sammy Sosa flow, yeah, I had to change color. I'm an acrobat, flip your ass like the Ring Bowlers. Captain Planet, Superman, I'm flying through the stratosphere. I can pop your top like a soda or a can of beer. Starter man jacket had me ballin' like the Cavaliers. You can catch Corona, but I'd rather have a Heineken. I had to check my watch, yeah, it's that time again. Stampin' postcards, send them off with the mailman. 50 round clips, dropping shells like Michelangelo. Ninja Turtle flow, dripping blood in your pizza sauce.
That's the question. As the trial involving Sean P. Diddy Combs gets underway in the Manhattan federal courtroom, the indictment of the 55-year-old music mogul includes a lot of serious offenses: sex trafficking, racketeering, forced labor, interstate transportation for prostitution, drug offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Did I miss any? Combs telling the judge yesterday, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm a little nervous today," as he sat at the defense table watching the jury process begin. You should be nervous, Diddy. More than a dozen possible jurors were questioned one by one in the first stage of the trial. That's how it goes. 12 jurors and 6 alternates then will ultimately decide if Combs is guilty of leading his bad boy records company as a depraved criminal enterprise for decades, doing all that nasty stuff I just mentioned. A criminal enterprise that prosecutors claim exploited women. And by the way, this should say women and boys and young men by using sleazy methods like his parties that he pretty much would even call them freak-offs. These were drug and booze-fueled freak-offs. And then, of course, he took video of the freak-offs, which then he could use the video as leverage, on the victims. The case against Diddy began to build rapidly in November of 2023 when a former girlfriend accused him of rape, physical abuse, and sex trafficking, claiming that Combs forced her to engage in sex with male sex workers so he could watch and videotape it. Over the next several months, other accusers then came forward, including a woman who alleged that she was raped by Combs and 2 other men in 2003 when she was just 17. And a music producer who accuses Diddy of sexually assaulting him and forcing him to have sex with prostitutes. It's a lot to digest for these jurors in a trial that they say will last for weeks and weeks. We're talking 2-3 months maybe. Opening statements are scheduled for next Monday. If convicted, Combs facing a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years in prison with the possibility of a life sentence. How about it's life without parole for somebody like this? We have heard this. People have brought this up for decades. They've said he did sick things to Justin Bieber and other young artists trying to make a name for themselves. That's how they got to where they are. You either did Diddy or you didn't do squat in the music industry. That was the norm. Joining us now to weigh in on this trial, but more importantly, what's happening with sex trafficking in America? Because, folks, this is a huge industry, and America, unfortunately, is the leader in sex and human trafficking. And we traffic over 1 million kids a year out of our country. It needs to stop. He's the founder of the Jaco Boyens Ministry and the Share Together nonprofit group. It's Jaco Boyens back on the program. Jaco, nothing you and I didn't already know. Maybe some folks out there in the cheap seats watching this program tonight still thought because they enjoy his music that he's a good guy and that he's being wrongfully accused, or that people set him up or forced him to do it when he was younger. And you know what? That part might be the case. But the bottom line is sometimes the student becomes the teacher, and this sick pervert has been doing a lot of crap for years, Jaco.
Yeah, Dan, thank you. And you're such a champion in this fight, and you will continue to be a champion in this fight for the innocence of children.
Yes, we
One
will.
thing you didn't mention is racketeering.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's the racketeering portion and one other portion. Force, fraud, coercion was mentioned in the case. Actual sex trafficking was mentioned. It was not in Ghislaine Maxwell's case and in Jeffrey Epstein's case, which means this guy should never see light of day.
Thank you.
It should be life because children are involved. Everything should be off the table. The jury should be pretty well informed. The jury should know what's going on if the prosecution did a good job in selecting a jury. And then what? We need the people that funded him. Where's the music moguls that funded the freak offs? Because he didn't start with cash. He didn't start Bad Boy Records on his own.
That's right.
He had big names that are still in the music business today, that are walking around scot-free, who funded him. Remember, my sister in Lanka was trafficked in the music business. Within 31 years of fighting human trafficking, if there's one thing we really know, it's the hybrid blend of entertainment and trafficking. This is literally my family's story. There's so many that should fall with him. The concern I have is that he will fall alone. He cannot fall alone.
Unless he
From
blows the
here-
whistle. Jaco, a lot of
Absolutely.
folks are saying, what if Diddy doesn't listen to lawyers or anybody and says, look, if I'm going down, the ship and all the captains and second mate and stewards, everybody's going down with me. And he starts naming names, because we've all seen these lists. Celebrities, royal family members, and politicians. Again, it looks just like the Epstein list. And gee, I wonder, Jaco, probably because a lot of these sick perverts run in the same circles, right? So
100%.
most likely,
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein's list and their sicko pervert clients and their young girls and boys they used probably maybe even all intersected at one time with Diddy's sick list and victims, right?
To give people an example, baseball players get traded. So do slaves and victims. Football players play against you this week, next week they're on a different team. They get drafted. It's no different in this business. Those lists coincide. It's time for those who bought sex from children, who bought sex from those who Diddy provided sex for. They've got to go down with him, not just him. They had Harvey Weinstein go down, and then they tell America, Billy the Kid is off the block, you're safe. You think Weinstein was the only guy with a sex couch in
He's
Hollywood?
one.
I mean, come on.
One of thousands. I wouldn't even say hundreds. One of thousands of perverts that is in the entertainment. And when I say entertainment industry, I mean broad scope. I'm talking sports, music, television, film.
Finance, Dan, the finance.
Oh, I forgot about the people with the money that run the banks, the finance industry, and then, of course, the politicians, and we know some of the royals. It's a big just cattle call of sick perverts and a couple key players who've been running these games, if you will, of trafficking these poor boys and girls across this country and the globe for decades, and it's time some butts end up in prison. Jaco, if folks want to know more what you do, because you're always out there publicizing these horrific acts, but also trying to bring people home. How do they help you do that?
Yeah, help us rescue victims in this country. We're the #1 nation selling boys and girls for sex. You go to helpjbm.org, and you can also help us volunteer, change policy, and go after bad guys and see kids live the real American life they're supposed to live, a life of innocence and purity. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, let kids be kids. The world's bad enough once you're an adult. Jaco Boyens, we love you, brother. Keep the fight. Take care. Up next, a former government official that used to work for HUD under George H.W. Bush goes on the record with Tucker Carlson and details what she says are secret underground cities that our government has built for the elite in case of a near extinction event. And I don't think you and I got an invite. More on that when we come back.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away.
Alan Jackson has become a part of America's musical landscape and a country music icon. over his 25-year music career.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee.
Now he delivers a powerful performance featuring songs from his very personal release entitled Precious Memories.
I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my fame and glory. Are you lost in the blood?
Filmed live at the historic Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee, this unique DVD captures powerful gospel performances and intimate interviews with Alan, his mother, and his wife as he reflects on his musical journey.
This is my story. This is my song.
If you call now to order this inspirational video, you'll also receive, as a very special bonus, a 2-CD collection featuring 28 classic gospel favorites.
Love lifted me. Love lifted me. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He lives, he lives, Christ Jesus lives today.
This DVD keepsake is a priceless addition to any music collection, and it can be yours along with this bonus 2-CD collection for the special low price of $29.95 plus shipping and handling. To order, have your credit card ready and call the number on your screen.
When we all get to heaven, what?
Need life insurance? SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife, Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
You're watching One America News Plus, your source for the nation's top-rated primetime political talk shows. Stay tuned. One America News Plus will be back in just a moment.
In the soft limestone of
Mr. Trumptastic.